Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our session, our Facebook live stream. We're happy to have you join us. Wow, we already have 8 people watching. Today, we're talking about something exciting. It's about some changes to our upcoming application. So we're specifically focusing on our graduate application stream. My name is Kendra Hawk, and I work in admissions with the MD program, and I'm joined by
Hannah Lee, also from MD Admissions.
We switched sides in case you watched the last one, so you could tell the difference between the two. But we also have a completely different topic. But just like our other topics, you're welcome to type in your questions. And we have some prepared questions just from feedback and questions we've been receiving already about the changes that are coming for our graduate application stream. These changes, these things we're talking about, are on our website already, and they will be in the OMSAS guide, so you don't have to take notes. So Hannah, what are the changes coming to our graduate application stream?
Right, so we have been working on our previous model of graduate application stream for a very long time and have been collecting feedback from our candidates for at least 5 years now. And based on our applicants' feedback, we have decided to evaluate our graduate application stream using the materials that you would have normally provided as part of the regular application cycle. That means no more extra CV, no extra graduate supervisor letter, and we'll look at everything based on the information that you have put together as part of the regular ABS, as part of a regular submission of transcripts, and the degree histories that you have completed up to the point of October 1st. And the reason that we have decided to go into this change is many of the information that were already part of the regular OMSAS application, ABS, transcripts, and the regular references included enough information about your potential as a graduate student and how you've done. And we did not need that extra information to complete the type of assessment that we were doing.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like a lot less work for our graduate applicants. Would you agree?
Yeah, and it's less work for your supervisor because
Yes.
very often, and Kendra can tell you for sure, if you're, for example, a graduate applicant, sometimes your referee for the regular application was your graduate supervisor, and they had to write almost the same content again as U of T's graduate supervisor letter.
Yeah.
And then if you, on top of that, were applying to the MD PhD program, the same supervisor then wrote the third letter. And we really wanted to make this process less confusing and straightforward for our students, applicants, and the supervisors. And that's why we have scrutinized all the information that you have prepared for us as part of your applications for the last 5 cycles and have determined that information that we normally see in the OMSAS application was sufficient.
Right. So when we are, one of the big benefits too is just to equalize and make very fair our evaluation. So a lot of people would have questions about what would qualify them and what publications, and we don't have those questions anymore. It's just based on your degree program and whether it is conferred or not conferred. So maybe you want to explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, and I want to tell you that the model or framework, rather, of how we approach graduate assessment has not significantly changed in a sense that if you are applying just out of your first year, right, just have recently started your course-based master's, there still wouldn't be anything for us to assess at the time because you've just started, so you would not be part of the graduate assessment. But if depending on how far along you are in your master's and doctoral, you would be completing and you would have accomplished, right, different degree of work as a graduate student. So we will honor that by giving you credits towards your academic assessment.
Yeah, and if you think about it, it's very logical. We are recognizing course-based masters, but once they're finished, because if you're applying when you started your course-based masters, all we have is your registration status. We don't have any completed courses. We don't have anything that we can give you credit for. But if you are in a research-based master's, they're traditionally 2 years long. So you would have to apply in your second year. We have a whole year that we know you're on your way to getting that graduate degree. And so in that sense, we can give some credit to those students who are in progress in their master's, research-based master's or PhD. So I know this has been a kind of a question that we've been getting through our medicine.admiss email account, sort of course-based versus research-based. So we are recognizing course-based masters, but they need to be conferred for you to really see a difference. So this is a common question. How does it affect those who are completing the course-based master's degree program? So we've addressed that, I guess. And then I was wondering, this is sort of a trick question. I know what Hannah's going to answer, but can you provide an overview of what a competitive GPA would be for the graduate applicants?
Right, and some of you may be returning applicants. The trend, we at least right now don't think will change if you are completing a doctoral degree. Most likely you will be in a competitive range if you have anywhere 3.4 and above. This is your raw GPA. And for those in the master's degree, that will be 3.7 and above. But I always tell this message to all of the applicants that I have encountered and have spoken to. Don't be discouraged just because you don't have these numbers. These are the general competitive averages that we have seen as part of our application pool. You may have amazing non-academics, or you may have had an extenuating circumstance that you will receive accommodation. So if keep in mind of these previous couple of years threshold or competitive ranges, but also give us a call or email us if you want to talk about your personal case, just to see how competitive or what your chances would be.
Thank you, Hannah. So this is another common question, even from prior years. I'm not sure if my master's is course-based or research-based.
Right. Generally speaking, many of the master's or doctoral degree program will state the type of program that you are enrolled in your academic calendars. We're looking, when we say research-based master's, on novel outcomes that you will accomplish through your research work. There could be a variety of research types that a graduate student will pursue in a school. If you have questions whether you're in a thesis or course-based, because you may be doing research, but it may be an MRP, not necessarily a thesis work, a good place that you want to contact is your graduate office or your graduate coordinator, because they can tell you a little bit more about their program type. And then you can include that as part of your educational background. And if you have questions, as always, you can email us and we can save a copy of that correspondence on your file as well.
So we had this question on our list, but people are also asking it. Fan is asking, are co-first authorship publications weighted the same as standard first author publications? So that is a very specific question that sort of wraps into, are we still looking at publications as part of the graduate application stream?
Right. And so I'm going to answer purely from a graduate stream, and we have a slightly different answer for the MD PhD program. But for the MD admissions process, we will not be looking for whether you are a first or co-author of a particular publication. Not all graduate students, we've learned, will have enough productivity at the time of the applications to have publications. So we are not going to be specifically asking for a first author publication from this fall and onwards. I also want to tell you that, we talked a little bit about this yesterday when you're putting together your 32 entries of your ABS. Sometimes when you talk about your scholarly outcomes, your publication may be one of the significant achievements that you talk about as part of your research work, or sometimes it may not, right? Depending on the type of academic background that you are completing.
Yeah, you might be involved in a journal that you felt was more related to the scholarly attribute cluster.
And from speaking to our applicants over the years and working with our committee, we've really gotten to know a little bit more about the different type of graduate programs there are, different research that's out there. And we are confident that this new assessment that we'll complete based on the OMSAS application that you put together for us will give us good information to provide that graduate assessment.
So in short, your publications are not a measurement that we're going to be using in the graduate application stream, but these are wonderful experiences that you can always draw from throughout the rest of your application, and that would be the non-academic part where you're listing it on your ABS. You might even find it useful to refer to when you're answering our essay questions, and then of course if you make it to an interview, I'm sure you would have many interesting experiences from the challenges of putting together a publication that you could use in your interview responses. So it's great experience, just like joining the inner tube water polo team is also great experiences that make you who you are. So they're still very important, but not part of the graduate application. Would you agree with what I said?
That's I couldn't have put it better. The time that it does come into play though is Kendra can also add on to this. If you are applying to the MD PhD program, we will continue to look at your CV. So if you have different publications where you're the first author or co-author, or your conference proceedings or abstracts, you will continue to be asked to provide information about your product.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. So if we're talking about MD PhD, there was a question earlier about from Abby, thank you, if we still require an extra letter for the MD PhD applicant. So I don't know what you mean by extra, but there's going to be 3 references required for your MD application, and there continue to be 3 references required for your MD PhD. The MD PhD references are the same as prior years, where it's a narrative letter, and if you look on their website, excuse me, there's a very specific number of topics that we want the referee to address in that letter. And then for all MD PhD applicants, whether graduate or undergrad, the academic CV is required, and there's a template available that you can look at, and they're interested in all of your research output, which again is taking away something that was confusing for grad applicants before, in that we only wanted your graduate research output, but for MD PhD, they're looking at all research that you've done in your undergrad, in your grad, maybe even in your professional life. So all of that research experience is very important for your MD PhD application.
So the only now important factor that you do have to think about for us as you're putting together your OMSAS application is we really need to know if you are in progress of completing your graduate degree, when the anticipated completion date is, because that's one of the important information that will tell us how far along you are in your graduate degree and whether or not you will be eligible to enter a program in the following year.
Yeah, and that answers Jamie's question. If I'm reading it, I don't want to have to squint at your name. It's either Janine or Jamie. In that, yes, we still have the requirement that you're completed all of your graduate work and have proof of it by June 30th prior to your start year if you're admitted to our program. Let me just see if I'm missing some questions. Scrolling down.
I see some of the more general application related questions, and those questions, we actually have an upcoming application based Facebook Live, and so we'll prepare our answers and give you the full overview of what's coming up in that Facebook Live session.
Yeah, and I think I saw a question about how to prepare for interviews. There's actually a whole amazing Facebook Live, 2 of them, with myself and our current students who talk about prepping for interviews. But that's a while off. I think you need to think about your application preparation at this point. We're just going to take a look at these questions. So one is about GPA for graduate applicants. So we do not look at your graduate courses as part of your GPA for a graduate applicant. You might want to expand on that.
The admissions GPA that you see on our website and also along the stats are completely based off of your undergraduate work, whether they were during your degree or non-degree years, like the previous years. And now we will be looking at your graduate productivity in a separate category, and they will be added back into your academic score.
Okay, so I think we answered Ezra and Amanda's questions with that. And also, there's a question here, where is it? About having a high impact paper. So again, that's amazing and congratulations. That's very exciting for you. And we won't be looking at that specifically as part of the graduate application. But again, it's something important to include in your ABS.
Great.
So if we don't have any more questions, we do have more questions. So it's a question about productivity and picking and choosing maybe as a PhD who has a lot of research productivity. How would you include that in your ABS since there's limited spots? You're going to have to be strategic. I mean, pick the experiences that were most important to you as a scholar and will help define you as a clinician. And don't forget about the other attribute clusters that need to kind of be illustrated in that ABS. So I would definitely not include only your scholarly productivity in that time. I would include other activities that reflect you as a whole person. So you're going to have to pick and choose. I wouldn't fill it all up with your posters and presentations and PhD output.
And that's an excellent point because if you are completing a doctoral degree, or sometimes if you are in a JD or other types of professional program, you do have previous degrees where you have accomplished many things. And when it comes to putting together your ABS and picking and choosing what scholar items to select, you need to think about what is your brand and how are you putting together these narratives. And you, like what Kendra has suggested, instead of putting in all the awards, what was the most impactful award that really demonstrates your commitment to a certain type of research outcome or your commitment to the field that you were part of. And that will give us sufficient information about your productivity or your outcome as a graduate student.
Yeah. Remember, you have, as a applicant, as we were talking about in our last Facebook Live, you're having multiple reviewers with different backgrounds looking over your application, and you need to make it obvious to them. So it would be difficult for anyone to appreciate all of your publications that you've done if they're not an expert from that area. So you need to really draw it out and explain, rather than just the accolades, what you learned from those experiences and how they are going to help you when you're a clinician.
And the detailed ABS list allows you to enter those extra details that you want to tell us a little bit about that specific achievement or accomplishment.
Yeah.
And you want to do that for the other sections as well. But that's a good opportunity for you to look through your CV up to this point if you're a doctoral student and really think about what were some of your career changing or career shaping accomplishments that you've done over the 5 or 7 years as a doctoral student.
Yeah, I think that is all very true. Thank you, Hannah. So it looks like we have come to the end of our questions. Oh, I keep saying that and I am wrong. So it's this is sort of a question that is Eric's question about a student with a median GPA of 3.7 to 3.8 and their likelihood of getting an interview about being a grad student or an undergrad. This new format is just taking that guessing away. If you are currently in a course-based master's or in a master's program, you will be a graduate applicant. And if you are not, you're an undergraduate applicant.
And just to talk about your competitiveness of with those people, and the median average have a less chance than those in a higher end of the GPA. We always are pretty frank about this. If you have a high GPA, it doesn't hurt, but that doesn't mean if you, as you know, all the non-academic factors that we collect as part of our application process, they're a fairly significant portion of our application. And so we have this conversation just as frequently as the students who are potentially on our borderline or threshold ranges, as those with 4.0 who didn't make it to the interview. It's always about how all of this information come together. We're not looking for just a 4.0 student who doesn't have any sort of contributions they've made towards the community or have reflections about why they want to be a physician. But conversely, we want to make sure that our students have the excellent academic preparations to be successful in our program. And so both academic and non-academic factors matter. In terms of your eligibility or your opportunity to get to the interview stage, it's really dependent on how well and how competitive are you in both streams, both areas, right? So if you are strong in both areas, fairly strong chance. If one of the area is weaker, I would actually speak to some of the reviewers who are helping you read through your application essay, just to make sure that if you are that student in that borderline range, how clear and how excellent are your points that are coming across in these applications essays, because they really do help the non-academic components. And that's why, especially for those students who are in the graduate stream who have had extra 2 or sometimes up to 7 years to think about your journey to this point, you have that extra opportunity to really showcase everything you've accomplished to this point. And when it comes to a brief personal essay, what sort of the reflections can you draw upon from your professional and academic careers to provide these enriched answers?
We have another question, actually, it's a great question. It's about how will you assess whether the degrees is courses versus thesis-based with thinking about practicum-heavy degrees?
Right. And so within your OMSAS application, you will have the opportunity to fill out your educational degree background. And we do this every cycle as well. If there's questions or things are not clear, we will be in touch with your graduate program.
And practicum heavy, again, fantastic opportunity to be practicing all your interpersonal skills, your clinical skills, depending on what kind of practicum it is. But when we're talking about research-based graduate programs, we're talking about a thesis outcome. Like, this is the product of your graduate study. So
Yeah.
it's unusual, I think, to have a practicum-based master's that also is a thesis-based. So yeah, I think that's one of the common things. Like 1 year where you're taking all courses, and one of the courses they call a thesis, but it's just basically worth one full course equivalent. That is not what we're talking about when we talk about a research-based degree.
We're looking for a research program where you are part of a novel discovery work that leads to a little bit longer term research work, typically usually 16 to 24 months with a thesis and a defense. That's part of the program. However, there are a lot of the accelerated types of programs that are out there now. And so what we have gone over earlier in this video is to make sure that you do check in with your program coordinator. Information such as this is usually covered in your academic calendar, but there are a lot of new programs that we have recently encountered, and it's always good to talk to your program coordinator to get that clarification. And we will also reach out when the information is not very clear based on the application materials we receive.
Yeah, and for those of you who are actually launching into maybe some graduate work next year and are unsure, or maybe you even have an offer that you haven't accepted yet, just like prerequisite checks, we are absolutely happy to take a look at what you're thinking at and let you know prior to you joining. You would need to email our office with the degree, the university, a link to the program description, and we would get back to you with a decision about that. We're not wanting you to guess at these things.
It's a fairly common question type that we receive in our office.
Yeah. So we have, okay, so this is another good question, because we come across, we have used the terminology graduate pool or undergraduate pool. Really, it's a misnomer. We're talking about just two different application streams. We don't have set seats for graduate students and for undergraduate students. We welcome applicants from all sorts of backgrounds. Some people don't have an undergraduate degree. They have 3 years towards their undergraduate degree. Some have PhDs. So
there's no designated quota. We'll take the top students from all streams. At the end of the interview cycle, we actually rank everybody based on their total performance all throughout the cycle.
Yeah.
And then the top 259 students will enter our program in the fall.
Yeah. So would you say, I'll rephrase the question, are graduate applicants competing only against graduate applicants and undergrad against undergrad?
So in a different segment a couple of years back, I talked a little bit about how we put together our academic assessment. And so you're purely going through different stages in our process: screening, file review, interview, and everything is anonymized. And all of your, whether it's non-academic or academic work, is converted to our admission score. And so at the end of the day, when we rank you as part of our applicant pool, we don't really know if you're a graduate or undergraduate applicant. We have already, in a confidential, anonymized fashion, have converted all of your performances and scores, and that's how we tally up our rank list. And so we don't actually have any quotas, nor do we try to designate any spots. And this applies for all of our special application streams.
I would like to also clarify, because this is a common follow-up question, thanks Eric, about, well, if what you need to know is that for sure I did all those courses in my course-based master's, can I update it after the first term? And unfortunately, no, we do not accept any updates to your application after our deadline. So unfortunately, people in their first year of their graduate program, you're unable to update it. But know that when you apply the following year, you will, there is a change in the way that we're assessing your program once that course-based master's is conferred.
So although you're applying as a student who's beginning your course-based master's, there will not be any courses, but we still need to know that you're enrolled in that program and to have the record of that enrollment, just because most of the course-based masters do tend to be less than 1 year term. And so we need to know that you will be ready to enter a program come fall. If something happens during the course of your enrollment and you experience a delay, then it also gives us that room and understanding of your circumstances. And so it's still good and important for you to fill out all of your educational background and credentials. But when it comes to course-based master students getting the credit recognition for their achievement, that's something that we can do after you complete that degree.
Yeah. So someone did ask for a recap. So to wrap it up, if anyone's lasted this long, and 24 people have, we are changing our graduate application stream. It's become simplified. There's no longer an academic CV required.
Nor graduate letter.
No more graduate letters. So the extra letter from your graduate supervisor. And those are the two big parts of it.
And everything else, it's the same as the previous years. We were able to determine the factors that we want to assess as in our graduate applicant pool. So everything that you will put together as part of your MSAS application will still inform us about the type of graduate student and the productivity that you have achieved as a student. So no other information. This is just a way that we want to make this process easy for you, but also for your supervisor, so that there is no repetition or duplication of efforts.
Yeah.
We did want to tell you, in the fall, we've so far over the last 2 Facebook sessions have covered some of the exciting changes that we will be introducing come this fall. For the 2020-21 cycle that you are applying to in July. This fall, sometime in November, December, our Director of Admissions will be sharing important updates about our admissions requirements too. That is a more comprehensive renewal of our admissions process to meet the challenges and to modernize our admissions process and evaluations. And that information we will also capture through Facebook Live in the fall. And so if you are preparing this July, best of luck to you as you prepare. We hope that the information that we have shared over the last sessions and the one that's coming up in July is helpful. If you are in first year or if you are not applying for the next 2-3 years, please do look out for our fall announcement about our major changes that are coming up in 2-3 years. We will promise to keep you informed all through the different phases of our admissions renewal process to make sure that you are best prepared to be part of our application process. Otherwise, our team, including Kendra and myself, are happy to answer any questions about this upcoming cycle. And we hope that this session was helpful and that you have a great summer.
Yeah, and for those of you who are interested in our upcoming session, is going to coincide with the OMSAS launch. We haven't set the date yet. It's not going to be on Facebook. We're going to upgrade to a webcast so that we can show you some examples of the new manner in which your referees are giving their references. So keep an eye out. We will post an event on Facebook with a link to where the webcast is going to be. But if you want to download it, or sorry, not download it, if you want to watch it afterwards, there'll just be a live link on our website and we'll put it on our YouTube channel as well.
Yeah, and you'll still be able to ask your questions through a chat window. And we're doing this because we want to tell you a little bit more about our new reference letter form and why we have decided to go into this change. We think that the new form will remove the biases and ensure that everyone has a easier time requesting referees for the types of information that medical schools typically need in a letter, just to reduce the stress of our applicants and our referees who are trying to figure out what to include in the reference letter. So all of this, stay tuned.
And any unanswered questions, well, I'll just type in some answers in the comments. So I will continue to answer your questions in the comments. Have a great afternoon, everyone. Thanks for watching our Facebook Live.